Shout out to the Christmas albums of Sufjan Stevens. There's an important place for holiday music that sounds like it was recorded by an actual elf, though that dude is pretty weird even for elf standards. Shout out to Bob Dylan's Christmas album too, because there's also an important place for holiday music that sounds like Santa broke into the elf's recording studio with a bottle of rye whiskey and a couple of prostitutes. Shout out to Mariah Carey, just in general. Shout out to cutting down your own Christmas tree. It makes you feel closer to nature, and Ron Swanson. Shout out to the few indie bands who don't dress like they're doing Grapes of Wrath cosplay. Shout out to bringing the old forward instead of taking the new backward. Shout out to the Pope's Twitter, which is not the beginning of a dirty joke, but actually a real thing happening. Shout out to following the teachings of the Pope without actually having to follow the teachings of the Pope. Shout out to the bored marketing guys who run parody Twitter accounts. They had a good week. Shout out to every Baldwin but Steven. They had a good week by comparison. But I guess they usually do. Shout out to the return of Shane Carruth. I've watched the Upstream Color trailer 10 times and I get more confused and excited every time. Shout out to nerds upset about hypothetical changes to the Star Trek universe, like alternate timelines suddenly aren't their bag. Shout out to Khan. Shout out to the Washington Monument completed this week 128 years ago. Shout out to George Washington. Shout out to Brad Neely. Shout out to the fact that goth kids love Nightmare Before Christmas, even though it's a movie about the undoing of a secular society by Christian sentimentality and consumerism. Shout out to Claymation.